In a bustling town filled with luxury boutiques and high-end fashion stores, one shop stood out among the rest. Graceful Styles was a place of beauty and sophistication, where elegance was displayed in every shimmering dress and tailored suit. The shop owner, Claudia Grant, was known for her sharp wit, intimidating presence, and an unwavering belief in perfection. One sunny morning, a young man named Lucas entered the store. Lucas was in his late 20s, with an infectious smile and a sparkle in his eyes. His life hadn't been easy. Confined to a wheelchair after an accident years ago, Lucas carried himself with resilience and optimism that inspired everyone who met him. He wore a clean, pressed shirt and a modest tie that he had spent extra time choosing, hoping to make a good impression. As the door chime rang softly, the luxurious scent of polished wood and expensive fabric greeted Lucas. His heart raced as he took in the elegant displays and meticulously arranged mannequins. This place is magical, he thought, his hands gripping the wheels of his chair tighter. From behind the counter, Claudia appeared. Her towering figure was accentuated by her stiletto heels, and her sharp features seemed as though they were carved from stone. She scrutinized Lucas with a glance that felt as cold as the marble floors beneath her. "Good morning," Lucas greeted, his voice warm and sincere. "I'm Lucas Adams. I'm here for the sales assistant position." Claudia's thin, crimson lips curled into a slight, dismissive smile. "Follow me," she said curtly, leading him to her office without so much as an introduction. On the way, Lucas couldn't help but admire the clothing on display. He beamed at a glimmering blue dress. "That's beautiful. I bet anyone who wears it would feel like a princess," he said with genuine awe. Claudia rolled her eyes but didn't respond. In her office, Claudia sat behind her grand oak desk, its surface gleaming under the light of an ornate chandelier. She crossed her arms and began the interview with a tone dripping with skepticism. The questions were pointed and harsh, seemingly designed to unsettle Lucas, yet he remained composed, answering with honesty and enthusiasm. "What makes you think you're qualified to work here?" she asked, her voice sharp.
Lucas met her gaze and smiled. "I believe selling clothes isn't just about the garments, it's about making people feel confident and special. Every customer deserves to feel their best."
Claudia's lips twitched, a flicker of disdain flashing in her cold, gray eyes. "Interesting perspective," she muttered. Finally, she leaned back in her chair and offered a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're hired. You can start tomorrow." Lucas's face lit up, his gratitude radiating. "Thank you so much, Ms. Grant. I won't let you down." As Lucas left the store, his excitement was palpable, but behind him, Claudia's assistant, Mia, whispered hesitantly, "Are you sure about this?" Claudia's smile turned cruel. "Oh, I have plans for him. Let's see how long Mr. Optimism lasts in a world where perfection is everything." The next morning, Lucas arrived early, dressed neatly and ready to work. The store was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. He greeted Claudia cheerfully. "Good morning. I'm ready to make today amazing." Claudia merely raised an eyebrow and led him to the stockroom, a dimly lit area cluttered with boxes and clothing racks. "Your job is to organize this mess. And don't ruin anything. These items are worth more than your entire wardrobe."
Lucas didn't notice the insult hidden in her tone. "I'll take great care of everything," he promised, his voice brimming with enthusiasm.
As he began his work, Claudia stood in the doorway, watching him struggle to lift heavy boxes onto high shelves. Her laughter was barely contained as Lucas maneuvered his wheelchair, humming softly to himself. The effort was immense, but Lucas never complained.
Hours passed and Claudia's taunts grew sharper. "You're taking too long," she said. "Maybe your outdated clothes are slowing you down."
Lucas paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Don't worry about my clothes, Ms. Grant. What matters is what's inside, right?" Claudia's laughter echoed through the stockroom like a cruel symphony.
Later that day, Lucas moved to the sales floor, where he greeted customers with warmth and sincerity. "This dress would bring out your beautiful smile," he told one woman. "This suit has the confidence of a lion," he complimented another. His genuine kindness quickly won over the shoppers.
Claudia, observing from a distance, clenched her fists. How dare he gain their favor? She thought bitterly. She waited for the perfect moment to humiliate him. Interrupting his cheerful interaction with a customer, Claudia spoke loudly, "Lucas, do you really think anyone would trust your judgment? Look at you. You don't belong here." Her words struck like daggers, but Lucas managed a trembling smile. "I'm just trying my best," he whispered. As the day ended, Lucas found himself alone in the stockroom. His hands ached, and his heart was heavy with the weight of Claudia's disdain. Yet, he looked at the scattered boxes and murmured, "Tomorrow is another chance to prove myself." Outside, the city lights twinkled, but within the walls of Graceful Styles, the battle between kindness and cruelty was just beginning. The next morning, the sun broke over the town, spilling golden light onto the cobblestone streets. Lucas arrived early at Graceful Styles, his determination as unshakable as ever. The store was quiet, save for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the soft rustling of garments as he tidied up displays. He hummed a cheerful tune, masking the ache in his arms from the previous day's hard labor.
Claudia arrived shortly after, her sharp heels clicking against the marble floors. "Well, Mr. Adams," she began, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Ready to dazzle us with your impeccable skills today?"
Lucas smiled brightly. "Always, Ms. Grant, I'm here to help." She raised an eyebrow and walked past him without a word, her perfume lingering in the air like an icy cloud. Lucas turned his focus to his duties, choosing to see the beauty in the clothes he handled and the joy in the customers he assisted. By midday, the store buzzed with activity. Customers admired racks of luxurious dresses and impeccably tailored suits. Lucas moved through the crowd, offering compliments and advice with genuine enthusiasm. "This fabric feels like a dream," he told a young woman, running his fingers over a soft chiffon dress. "You'll feel like royalty wearing it." The woman beamed, her confidence visibly growing. "Thank you," she said, her voice tinged with gratitude. But not everyone shared her warmth. Behind the counter, Claudia watched Lucas's interactions with thinly veiled contempt. Her assistant, Mia, approached hesitantly. "He's doing well," she said softly. "Customers seem to like him." Claudia's lips curled into a smirk. "We'll see how long that lasts," she muttered. Later in the afternoon, as Lucas organized the stockroom, he noticed something glittering beneath a rack of clothing. Curious, he maneuvered his wheelchair closer and bent down, straining to reach the shiny object. His fingers grasped a delicate diamond brooch, its facets catching the dim light. Lucas's eyes widened. This must belong to a customer, he thought. He turned the brooch over in his hand, marveling at its beauty. "It's worth a fortune." For a brief moment, doubt crept into his mind. What if I kept it? He wondered. No one would know. I could sell it and use the money for Mom's medicine. The thought lingered, but only for a second. Shaking his head, Lucas pushed the idea away. His mother had always taught him the value of integrity. He wheeled himself out of the stockroom and into Claudia's office. She was reviewing receipts, her sharp eyes scanning each line with precision. "Ms. Grant," Lucas said, holding out the brooch, "I found this under a rack in the stockroom. It looks valuable, so I wanted to return it." Claudia's eyes flicked to the brooch, then back to Lucas. For a moment, her expression softened, but it was fleeting. "You found this?" she asked, suspicion lacing her voice. "Yes, ma'am. It must belong to one of our customers," Lucas replied. She took the brooch from him, examining it carefully. "How do I know you weren't planning to keep this for yourself?" she asked coldly. Lucas's heart sank. "I would never do that," he said earnestly. "Honesty is important to me." Claudia let out a hollow laugh. Honesty, she scoffed. Such a naive concept. She placed the brooch in a drawer and turned back to her paperwork, dismissing him with a wave of her hand. That evening, after the store had closed, Lucas remained behind to tidy up. As he swept the floors and adjusted displays, Claudia lingered in the shadows, watching him with a calculating gaze. Finally, she spoke. "You don't belong here, Lucas," she said, her voice cold and cutting. "Your simple clothes, your wheelchair, you're not a good fit for Graceful Styles. This isn't a charity." Lucas paused, the words stinging more than he cared to admit. He looked at her, his expression steady, but his voice trembling. "I'm just trying to do my best, Ms. Grant. That's all I can offer." Claudia smirked. "Well, your best isn't enough. You're fired. Collect your things and leave." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Lucas felt the ground beneath him shift, but he forced a smile and nodded. "Thank you for the opportunity," he said softly, wheeling himself toward the exit. As he left the store, the streets outside seemed colder, the twinkling lights of the city dimmer. Yet, despite the ache in his chest, Lucas refused to let bitterness take hold. "I'll find another way," he whispered to himself, determination flickering like a candle against the darkness. That night, in his modest apartment, Lucas shared the news with his mother. She listened quietly, her frail hands clutching his as he spoke. "I'm sorry, Mom," Lucas said, his voice breaking. "I wanted this job to help us to buy your medicine." She smiled weakly, her voice a gentle whisper. "Lucas, my sweet boy, you have something no one can take away: your kindness. Hold on to that." As he held her hand, Lucas vowed to keep moving forward. Little did he know his integrity and compassion were about to be tested in ways he could never have imagined. The following day dawned gray and somber. Clouds hung low over the city, and a fine drizzle coated the streets in a shimmering mist. Lucas spent the morning tending to his mother, preparing her breakfast and making sure she was comfortable. Despite his exhaustion and the pain of losing his job, he greeted her with a warm smile. "I'll find something else soon, Mom," Lucas reassured her as she sipped her tea. "Don't worry about me." She reached out, her hand trembling, and patted his. "You always find a way, Lucas. You're stronger than you think." Later that afternoon, as Lucas helped his mother settle in for a nap, the shrill ring of the phone startled him. He wheeled himself over and picked up the receiver. "Hello?" A familiar voice, sharp but uncharacteristically shaky, came through. It was Claudia. "Lucas, it's Claudia Grant," she said, her usual commanding tone replaced by one of desperation. "I need your help." Lucas frowned, gripping the phone tighter. "Bez, Grant, what's wrong?" "It's my daughter. She was in an accident. She's at City General Hospital, and they need a blood transfusion urgently. Her blood type is AB negative. It's rare, and the hospital doesn't have enough. I don't know what to do." Lucas's heart sank. The cold, unfeeling Claudia Grant now sounded like a terrified mother. Without hesitation, he answered, "That's my blood type. I'll be there right away." There was a stunned silence on the other end before Claudia whispered, "Thank you." Lucas hurried to the hospital, maneuvering his wheelchair through the bustling halls as the faint smell of antiseptic filled the air. He approached the reception desk and gave his name, explaining the situation. A nurse quickly escorted him to the donation room. As Lucas prepared for the transfusion, Claudia arrived, her usual polished appearance in disarray. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face pale. She spotted Lucas and hesitated, shame flickering across her face.
"Lucas," she began, her voice breaking. "I don't even know how to."
"It's okay," Lucas interrupted gently, his smile kind despite the exhaustion in his eyes. "Let's focus on your daughter. That's what matters."
Claudia's composure cracked. She covered her face with trembling hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Lucas reached out, placing a comforting hand on her arm.
"We'll get through this," he said softly. "She'll be okay." The donation process was long and draining, but Lucas remained steady, his mind focused on the little girl fighting for her life. When it was over, the nurse thanked him profusely and informed Claudia that her daughter's transfusion was underway. As they waited outside the operating room, the tension between Claudia and Lucas was palpable. Finally, Claudia spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you do it?" she asked, avoiding his gaze. "After everything I did to you, why would you help me?" Lucas leaned back in his wheelchair, his face thoughtful. "Because kindness isn't about who deserves it," he said simply. "It's about doing what's right. And I've learned that no matter how people treat you, you can't let it change who you are."
Claudia looked at him, her expression a mix of awe and regret. "I'm sorry, Lucas," she said, her voice trembling, "for everything. I was cruel, heartless. I see that now."
Lucas nodded slowly. "Apology accepted, Ms. Grant. We all make mistakes." Hours later, the doctor emerged from the operating room. Claudia shot to her feet, her heart pounding. "Your daughter is stable," the doctor announced, a tired smile on his face. "The transfusion was a success. She's out of danger." Claudia let out a choked sob, collapsing into a nearby chair as relief washed over her. She turned to Lucas, tears streaming down her face. "You saved her," she whispered. "You saved my little girl." Lucas smiled faintly, his face pale from exhaustion. "I'm glad I could help." Before Lucas left the hospital, Claudia approached him again, her demeanor completely transformed. Gone was the cold, haughty businesswoman. In her place stood a mother, humbled and grateful. "I want to do better, Lucas," she said, her voice earnest. "You've shown me what true grace and humanity look like. I can't undo what I've done, but I want to make amends." Lucas studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Start by treating people with kindness. That's all anyone can ask."
Claudia watched as Lucas wheeled himself away, his quiet strength leaving an indelible mark on her heart. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope, not just for her daughter's recovery, but for her own redemption.
A few weeks had passed since the events at the hospital. Lucas had returned to his usual routine of caring for his mother while searching for work. Though money was tight, his spirit remained resilient. The memory of Claudia's gratitude and her promise to change lingered in his mind, but he didn't dwell on it. He had other priorities. One afternoon, as Lucas sat by his mother's bedside reading aloud from her favorite book, the phone rang. Setting the book down, he wheeled himself to answer it. "Hello?" "Lucas, it's Mariah," came the familiar, upbeat voice of a former coworker from Graceful Styles. She had always been kind, one of the few who treated him with respect during his short time at the store. "Mariah, it's so good to hear from you," Lucas said, his voice lighting up. "How are you?" "I'm great, but I called to talk about you. I've started my own boutique," she said, her excitement palpable through the phone. "It's called True Colors. It's small, but it's a place where people can feel welcomed and celebrated for who they are." "That's amazing, Mariah," Lucas said, smiling. "Congratulations." "Thank you," she replied. "But here's the thing, Lucas, I want you to manage it." Lucas froze, the words taking a moment to sink in. "Me? Are you sure? I don't have much experience and—" Mariah interrupted, her tone firm yet warm. "Lucas, I've seen you in action. Your kindness, your ability to connect with people, your work ethic, it's exactly what I need. I want this store to reflect everything you stand for. Will you join me?" Emotion welled in Lucas's chest. "Mariah, I don't know what to say. I'd be honored. Thank you." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Lucas visited the boutique, a cozy space nestled in the heart of the community. The walls were painted in soft pastels, and the racks were filled with vibrant, affordable clothing that catered to all sizes, styles, and abilities. Mariah had even installed wheelchair-accessible fitting rooms and widened the aisles to ensure inclusivity. "This place is incredible," Lucas said as he wheeled through the store, taking in every thoughtful detail. Mariah grinned. "It's going to be even better with you here. Let's make this a place where everyone feels like they belong." As the days turned into weeks, Lucas poured his heart into managing True Colors. He created initiatives to make the store more accessible and welcoming, like free styling consultations and community events. His genuine warmth and enthusiasm attracted loyal customers, many of whom shared their stories of struggles and triumphs with him. One afternoon, a woman in a wheelchair entered the store hesitantly, her eyes scanning the racks. Lucas approached her with a bright smile. "Welcome to True Colors. Can I help you find something special today?" She looked at him, her face softening. "I've never felt comfortable shopping in places like this," she admitted. "But this store feels different." Lucas nodded. "It is. We're here to celebrate you just as you are." She smiled, and for the first time, Lucas saw the transformative power of creating a space where everyone felt valued. Meanwhile, Claudia had been quietly working on her own transformation. She restructured Graceful Styles, implementing fair labor practices and promoting inclusivity. She also began attending community events and reaching out to former employees, including Mariah, to apologize for her past behavior. One sunny afternoon, Claudia walked into True Colors, her posture less rigid than before. Mariah spotted her first, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Claudia," she greeted cautiously. Claudia held up her hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to interfere. I came to see Lucas." Hearing his name, Lucas wheeled out from behind the counter. "Ms. Grant," he said, surprised. "What brings you here?" She smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. "I came to say thank you again, for everything, and to tell you that you've inspired me. Graceful Styles isn't what it used to be because of you." Lucas studied her, seeing a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "That's wonderful to hear," he said. "I'm glad things are changing." Claudia hesitated, then added, "My daughter asks about you all the time. She calls you the angel in the wheelchair. She'd love to meet you someday." Lucas's heart swelled at the thought. "I'd love that." True Colors continued to thrive, becoming a hub of positivity and inclusion in the community. Lucas's mother, now recovering well thanks to his improved financial situation, often visited the store, beaming with pride. "Lucas," she said one day, her voice filled with emotion, "you've always had a light in you. Now the world gets to see it too." Lucas smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. His journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also revealed the strength of kindness and the power of second chances. The owner of a clothing store hired a disabled man with cruel intentions, only to be astonished by his actions months later. As he looked around the bustling boutique, surrounded by smiling faces and vibrant colors, Lucas realized he had found not just a job, but a purpose, a place where he could truly make a difference. Months passed, and the success of True Colors continued to ripple through the community. It wasn't just a boutique, it was a sanctuary, a symbol of hope for those who often felt unseen. Lucas had transformed the space into more than a store. It was a place where stories were shared, friendships were formed, and people left feeling a little brighter than when they entered. One sunny morning, as Lucas organized a rack of new arrivals, the soft chime of the doorbell announced a visitor. He turned to see Claudia entering, holding the hand of a little girl with curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes. "Lucas," Claudia greeted warmly, her demeanor worlds away from the cold, imposing figure she had once been. Lucas wheeled toward them with a smile. "Ems, Grant, and this must be your daughter." The little girl stepped forward shyly, clutching a small bouquet of daisies. "Are you the angel?" she asked in a tiny voice. Lucas chuckled, his cheeks flushing slightly. "I'm not an angel, but I'm Lucas. It's very nice to meet you." The girl held out the daisies, her face lighting up with a smile. "Mommy said you saved me." Lucas took the flowers gently, his heart swelling with emotion. "You're very welcome. And these are beautiful. Thank you." Claudia watched the interaction, tears glistening in her eyes. "She's been asking to meet you ever since she got better. I thought it was time." Lucas nodded. "I'm glad you brought her. She's amazing." As Claudia and her daughter left, another visitor entered the boutique, Mariah, her face glowing with excitement. She carried a folder under her arm and approached Lucas with a wide grin. "I have big news," she said, handing him the folder. "We've been nominated for the Community Inclusion Award." Lucas's eyes widened as he flipped through the folder. The nomination letter highlighted True Colors as a beacon of accessibility, inclusivity, and compassion in the retail world. "This is incredible," Lucas said, his voice filled with awe. "It's not just us, though it's everyone who's been part of this journey." Mariah placed a hand on his shoulder. "It wouldn't have happened without you, Lucas. You're the heart of this place." The award ceremony was held a month later in a grand hall filled with community leaders, business owners, and residents. Lucas and Mariah sat among the nominees, their excitement tempered by a nervous anticipation. When the host finally announced True Colors as the winner, the room erupted in applause. Lucas wheeled onto the stage, his hands trembling slightly as he accepted the award. The polished surface of the trophy reflected the spotlight, but it was the warmth of the audience's cheers that truly shone. As he adjusted the microphone, Lucas cleared his throat. "Thank you. This award means so much, not just to me, but to everyone who's been part of this journey. True Colors isn't just a store, it's a reminder that we all have value, that kindness matters, and that true beauty comes from within." He paused, his voice softening. "I've faced my share of challenges, but those challenges have taught me the power of compassion and the strength of community. This isn't about me, it's about all of us creating a world where everyone feels like they belong." The room rose to their feet in a standing ovation, and as Lucas gazed out at the sea of faces, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. In the weeks following the ceremony, True Colors became a model for other businesses in the area, inspiring a wave of inclusivity and accessibility. Claudia, true to her word, continued to improve her store and foster a culture of kindness among her staff. She frequently visited True Colors, not as a competitor, but as an ally and a friend. One day, as Claudia and Lucas shared a cup of coffee in the boutique's small cafe corner, she said, "You know, Lucas, you've taught me more than I could have imagined. My daughter talks about you like you're a superhero, and honestly, I think she's right." Lucas laughed, shaking his head. "I'm just doing my part, and you've changed too, Claudia. That's what matters." She nodded thoughtfully. "I still have a lot to learn, but I'm trying, and that's because of you." Back at home, Lucas's mother watched proudly as her son shared stories of the boutique's successes. She had regained much of her strength and now spent her days gardening and knitting, her laughter a regular melody in their modest apartment. "Lucas," she said one evening, placing a hand over his, "you've turned your pain into something beautiful. I always knew you were destined for greatness, not the kind measured by wealth or fame, but by the lives you touch." Lucas smiled, his heart full. "It's not just me, Mom. It's everyone who believed in me, everyone who gave me a chance." As the seasons changed, True Colors flourished, a testament to the power of kindness and perseverance. Lucas's story, along with the transformation of Claudia and the partnership with Mariah, became a symbol of hope for the community. And Lucas, seated behind the counter with his warm smile and unwavering spirit, knew he had found more than just success, he had found his purpose. He had proven that true strength lies not in overcoming others, but in lifting them up, and that the most beautiful colors in life are those that come from within.